then I've got the immense pleasure to introduce my very good friend and our Prime Minister, the Right Honourable Rishi Sunak. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, everyone. All right, thank you all. Good morning. So great to be with you. Maggie, thank you for the lovely introduction. Maggie works her socks off for you in Westminster. You're very lucky with her as your MP. And it is great to be with you all this morning. Look, and the first thing I'm going to say is, it's been tough the last few years. You know that, I know that. We were dealing with a pandemic and all the drama that that caused to everyone's lives. Just as we were getting recovered from that, we got hit by a war in Ukraine and the impact on all your energy bills. But I hope you know that during those times, I was there to do what I could to help you. The first time most of you got to know me was during COVID and the furlough scheme that helped protect so many people's jobs. Then with energy bills, the government stepped in to try and alleviate some of the increase in those bills as well. But now look what's happened. Collectively, thanks to all your hard work, all your sacrifice, your resilience, we've really made progress. We just got the news yesterday. Inflation down from 11% when I got this job, down back to normal, just over 2%. Energy bills now falling by hundreds of pounds. Wages have been rising by faster than prices for almost 10 months now. And the economy, we discovered in the first few months of this year, is growing faster than pretty much all our major competitors. So look, even though there's more work to do, and I know it will take time for you to all see the benefits of that, the plan is working and we have that economic stability back. But with that economic stability comes a choice. Do we want to turn those foundations into a more secure future for you, your families, and our country? Do we want to build on that stability? Or do we want to risk all that progress and, as Maggie said, go back to square one with more uncertainty and no plan? And that's the choice at this election. Now, when it comes to economic security, you know that I want to do that for you. That's why we're cutting taxes. Cutting all of your taxes on average by about £900. The only certainty you get with the Labour Party, when I talk about certainty, is that they will run out of your money and they will put your taxes up, as clear as night follows day. And we just ran the numbers the other week, all the things that they said that they want to do, all the things that they want to spend money on. You tot all of that up, it's going to cost you £2,000. Every working family in our country, £2,000 of extra tax rises. That's what it means at a time when I want to get your taxes down and give you that financial security. Now, I think, look, you all read the papers, you all watch the news, you know that the world is more uncertain, more dangerous than it's been in decades. You see what Russia, Iran, China, North Korea are all doing, working together, not just abroad, having an impact on us, them and their proxies firing missiles at our ships, interfering with our democracy here at home, poisoning people on our streets, using migration as a tool of war to threaten the integrity of our borders, damaging our energy security. And these uncertain times call for bold action, a clear plan so that we can chart a course to a secure future. And that's what I'm about delivering for all of you and our country. Let's just pick one example that I know will be on many of your minds, the boats and our borders. How do we stop the boats? Well, I'm very clear that requires bold solutions, requires a clear plan, and that's what I've got. Because this is a matter of fairness. Like you, I believe it's unfair. If people jump the queue, they come to our country illegally, put pressure on public services, and put their own lives at risk. So that's not right. We've got to stop that. But the only way to do it is to be bold. That's why we need Rwanda. We've got to make it crystal clear to everybody. If you come to our country illegally, you won't get to stay. We will be able to remove you to a safe alternative, because that's how you break the cycle. And you know what? I just got back from Austria. 15 other European countries have all now signed a statement saying that they agree with that approach. They think it's necessary. The only person who doesn't believe in that approach is Keir Starmer. He said he would scrap that. Doesn't believe in it. He wants to offer an amnesty to illegal migrants that are here. That would just make us the soft touch of Europe and attract even more people to come to our country. So on that and on so many issues, you just can't trust them to deliver the security that our country needs. And look, he wants to tell you that this election is over before it's even begun. But I'm going to fight very hard every single day, and with your support, I think the British people can say that they don't like being taken for granted, actually. And what we do know about him is that he will say anything, take the easy way out to get into power. And if he has abandoned all the promises that he made when he ran to be Labour leader, how do you know that he won't do exactly the same thing if he becomes Prime Minister? If you can't stand up for anything himself, how can he stand up for all of you and your families? And I'm prepared to take some bold action. I'm prepared to stick to a plan even when it's difficult. And I'm getting criticism when I believe it's the right thing to do for our country. That's how you deliver a secure future. That's what you've seen me do. And that's what I will keep doing. Because I want to build a Britain, a country where you all can have confidence, restored confidence and pride in our communities, in our society, in our nation, where we have opportunities for the next generation that were enjoyed by the previous generation, where all your hard work is rewarded, and where safety, security, and our defence is assured. That is the secure future that I'm working towards, and with bold action and a clear plan and your support, that's the secure future that we can deliver. Thanks very much. All right. Okay. Right, so we've got some time for some questions. Let's open it up. Who's got some hands up? Right, okay, let's start there and let's go there. Brilliant. Right,
so thank you and welcome to Area Wash. You've talked a lot about the economy, specific to everybody, cost of living crisis.
Yep.
What's been done and what sets you apart for the future to, benefit that, the pound in the pocket?
Yep. Great place to start. It's been really tough, as I said right at the beginning, for all of you, for all of your families. Energy bills doubling, inflation at 11%, right? Of course that's going to take its toll. But the only way to fix those things is to have a clear plan, right? And that's what I've done. You know you can trust me when it comes to the economy. I got our country through COVID, right? And that's because I was prepared to do some bold things. And then I was prepared to do some difficult things, right? I'm not going to pretend that we didn't have to spend a lot of money during COVID and to help everyone with energy bills. And it's reasonable that we have to pay that money back. And that requires difficult decisions. And you can do what Keir Starmer and the Labour Party did, which is snipe from the sidelines whenever I took a difficult decision to get our borrowing and our debt under control because I wanted inflation to get back down. When it came to public sector pay, I said, look, we've got to do this in a moderate way because we do have to get inflation down to ease the cost of living challenges that you're facing. And we've got through it. Right, all of us together, look what we've achieved when we put our minds to it. Inflation down from 11% back to normal. Wages rising. And now, because of all of that, crucially, talk about pound in your pocket, your taxes are being cut. Right? Because of what we've been able to do, an average person earning £35,000 is getting a £900 tax cut. That's what you get with the Conservatives. Your taxes being cut, so your hard work is rewarded, your family has financial security. That is a contrast at this election. Because as I said, the Labour Party are going to spend more money, and that is just going to put your taxes up. There's no other way to pay for it. They can pretend all they want. More spending equals more taxes, and I don't want to see that happen. So that's the clear difference you've got at the next election with me and them. Right, we had you, sir, and then I think, did you have a question somewhere? Yes.
Morning, Prime Minister.
Morning.
I'd like to first of all thank you for doing a great job when you was Chancellor during the COVID crisis. Thank you for that. But my main question as a Prime Minister is the NHS.
Yeah.
I've got personal issues with the NHS regarding health, and I'm just concerned that nothing's being done on a short term. I'm now waited up to 12 weeks for a prostate scan, and I've got my wife as well waiting for scan. She's been waiting 3 years, and I'm just concerned that I know you have said about the NHS that you put new training doctors and nurses up, which is great, absolutely great, but I just want to know what the future for the NHS is.
Yeah, it's a great question. Well, thank you for what you said about my time as Chancellor, first of all. And the other thing you should know about me is I come from an NHS family. So my dad was a GP, my mum was a pharmacist, I grew up working in my mum's pharmacy. I know how important it is. And the area where I wish I'd made more progress is with waiting lists. Right, and it was a priority of mine to cut waiting lists, and we haven't made as much progress as I would have liked, and I'll just be honest with you about that. Now, they are starting to come down by 200,000 over the last few months, and the NHS said, not me, they said that if we hadn't had all the strikes, we would have cut them by almost 500,000, right? So the strikes have really had an impact. But that doesn't help you, it doesn't help your wife. So what am I doing to make a difference? So one thing you talked about, scans. So we're rolling out community diagnostic centres. And what are these? It means you don't have to go to your big hospital, and actually you've got one, I think, not too far from here, haven't you, Maggie? So you can go to a local place, get your MRI, CT, X-ray much quicker, much easier, and we're rolling them out across the country. They've already done millions, and as we do more of that, it will mean we can rattle through that backlog much quicker. So that's starting to happen, and hopefully we can get you and your wife onto those as quickly as possible. You talked about training more doctors and nurses. We're doing that. Now, look, best will in the world. You know, I probably won't be your Prime Minister in 15 years' time, which is how long it takes to train one of these consultants. 5 years will do. Thank you very much. But I made that decision because you're right, because we haven't done that before, right? And we're always then reliant on having to import people from abroad, which isn't right. We should train people here at home. So I took the decision to do that because it's right for the long term of our NHS, even if I'm not going to be around to see the benefits of it. And I talked about being a son of a pharmacist. So now, those of you who have young kids, or even if you have an ear infection, throat ache, sinusitis, you can now go straight to your pharmacist to get the medicines you need. Don't have to wait on 8 a.m. Monday morning, get that GP appointment. Just go straight to your pharmacist. All right? Sinusitis, as I said, those kinds of things. She or he can give you the drugs that you need, save you the time, get you the healthcare you need quicker. An example of just me doing something a bit different to get you better healthcare. And then the last thing I'd say is on smoking. And I thought really hard about this, but we've brought plans forward so that our kids grow up to be the first generation that is smoke-free. And if we can stop them starting smoking in the first place, we've got a chance to do something incredibly special. Of course, it will mean we prevent lots of cancer deaths, which will be a fantastic thing, but we'll prevent ill health, disability, ease the burden on the NHS, and make sure we save the country about £17 billion a year. So look, that's an example of me doing something bold. Right, it is something radical, but that's what you'll get with me. I'm going to do what I think is right for the country, and when I haven't got it, done it as well as I would have wanted to, like on the waiting list, I'll be straight with you about it, but I'm going to work damn hard to make sure I get you and your wife the treatment you need. Thank you, Prime Minister. All right, good. Right, you had a question. Yeah.
Prime Minister, well, thank you for coming to Aerowash this morning. I imagine you're a pretty busy guy right now. The biggest issue, I think, is going to be immigration over this general election campaign. You've obviously got your Rwanda plan, but is it going to see results and stop the small boats coming?
Yeah, thank you. You're right. It is an important question. And I guess the question first is why, right? And for me, it's about fairness. It's a simple question of fairness, as I was saying, right? I just don't think it's fair if people jump the queue and come to our country illegally. Like our country, one of the central things about our country's character is the notion of fairness. And we play by the rules, we put in our fair share, we wait our turn, that's just who we are. And this, I think, offends my sense of fairness. And it also puts pressure on public services, on housing, on, in particular, on schools, on healthcare. But it also puts people's lives at risk. Right? Who can justify a trade where, as we saw a little while ago, a 7-year-old child died? Right? Who can justify that? Right? And we've got to break that cycle. And that's why you need a deterrent. Just right, there's lots of different ways you can solve this problem, and we have made progress and got the numbers down by a third last year, doing lots of different things. But fundamentally, just got to break the cycle. You've got to be clear to people. If you come here illegally, we're going to detain you, and then we're going to send you somewhere else. So there's no point in you paying someone thousands of pounds to try and come here in the first place. It's not rocket science. That's what you need to do. And when I said that a long time ago, everyone was like, oh my gosh, God's very radical. That's all very complicated. But you know what? As I said, 15 European countries just the other week all signed a statement saying that they think that has to be a part of the solution because they're realizing across Europe the penny is dropping, this challenge is growing, our security is being threatened, that's the only way to solve it. So I've got a clear plan. You've already seen, hopefully, some pictures in the papers and on telly. We've started detaining people. I can tell you the flights are booked for July, airfields on standby, the escorts are ready, the caseworkers are churning through everything. So all that is happening, and if I'm re-elected as your Prime Minister, those flights will go to Rwanda. We will get that deterrent up and running. But the choice is clear, because Keir Starmer is going to scrap that scheme. Right? He's going to scrap that scheme. There will be no deterrent. And he's talked about an amnesty for illegal migrants. Right? I don't want this country to be the soft touch in Europe. Right? I don't want us to be a magnet for even more people to come here. I don't think that's right for our security. I'm prepared to do what's necessary, even though it's difficult, because I think your security and the security of our borders is critical to the future of our country. Good, right, who's next? We've got, yes, oh, yes, ma'am.
Morning, Prime Minister. What will you do to protect the environment for future generations?
Right, so I have two little girls, they're 11 and 13, and as I always say, the thing that not that they're remotely that bothered about my job, but the one thing, other than whether they can get Taylor Swift tickets at some point, but the one thing they do talk to me about, as you would expect, is climate change and the environment. And look, of course, right? Like all of us, we have kids, we have grandkids. We want to make sure that we leave the environment in a better state to our kids and our grandkids than we found it. Like we have that moral responsibility to all of them. It's the right thing to do. But the one thing, and we're doing that, right? But the one thing I would say is, like, this is an area where there's been a debate. And again, I took a decision. It was bold, I got a lot of flack for it, but I said, look, net zero is important and we are going to get there. And by the way, we've already cut emissions faster than any other country in the world, so I'm not going to take any lectures from anybody about this, but we've got to do it in a proportionate, sensible way. Got to be hard-headed about it, and that means prioritising our energy security. No point rushing to net zero if we haven't got any, lights on here, and there's no point rushing to net zero if it means, like your question at the beginning, it's just going to cost you all a fortune and put up your energy bills. So I said last year, I was like, hang on, we have to do this a bit differently. I'm not an ideologue about this. I'm not just going to get there faster than anybody else without any concern for the impact on your family's finances, on our country's energy security. I'm going to be more hard-headed about it, right? And lots of people criticise me for that and said, oh gosh, you don't care about the environment and all that. That is nonsense, right? Of course I care about it, and we're going to do it, and we're already doing a better job than anyone else, but I'm not going to do it at the expense of our energy security, because that's not good for our country. I'm not going to do it at the expense of the financial security for you and your families. So we're going to do it in a proportionate way. And again, at this election, that is a choice. Right? Not everyone's going to agree with me, and that's okay. But I believe that I'm doing what's right for the country and right for your families. And Keir Starmer, he will promised all these things, it's going to cost you all a fortune, £28 billion of higher taxes, and it's going to mean we don't have energy security. He wants to ban British oil and gas. Right? That is nonsensical. We need oil and gas in our country for decades to come, even as we get to net zero. So given that, we're better off getting it from here at home, supporting the economy and jobs in the process and our security, than importing it from abroad. It is a bad policy that's not right for our country, and I'm happy to have the debate with him on that. All right, next, who do we have? Yes, sir.
Mental health is quite rightly and understandably a very hot topic. Just like many others in this room, dealing with the everyday stresses of life, I find my coping mechanism is to go to the gym or take long walks. What strategies do you have, Prime Minister, who must have one of the most stressful jobs one can have, to cope and deal with your own mental well-being?
Yeah, funnily enough, my strategies are pretty similar to yours. So there we go, actually. No, so I have a dog called Nova. She's a 3-year-old Labrador, which I've got to be totally honest, full disclosure, I was not keen to get. But my 2 young girls and my wife all kind of conspired against me, and she showed up a few years ago, and she's very much the love of my life and all our lives. So when I can go out for a walk with her, I find that actually very helpful, because I would also be happy to go for a walk by myself, but I think people think that you're a bit funny if you do that, right? So having the dog means I can just go for a walk, essentially, by myself and get a bit of a reset. And you're right, I think fitness is a really good thing. I don't know if any of you saw, I went for a run with the hardest geezer the other week, and he and I were talking about that, actually, and he was talking about how fitness and being out and about helps him cope with some of the challenges he's had to overcome, and I can relate to that. And I also think family is really important. Right? I think probably all of you, what's the most important thing in all of our lives? It's our family, right? That is the most important thing. That's where we get, certainly where I get my support from, and my wife does an enormous amount to support me. So those are kind of the things that I would point to as well. But the one thing I'll touch on to a slightly different area is our welfare system, because I really want to make sure everyone gets the support they need with mental health challenges, right? And it's a good thing that our society is more open talking about mental health challenges in a way that it wasn't 10 years ago. But I think we do need to be careful that we don't risk over-medicalising what are the everyday challenges and anxieties of life that you described. And when it comes to our welfare system, what we've seen is just this massive increase since the pandemic in the number of people who are of working age, all your age, but they're not working because they're deemed to be of ill health, and it's predominantly driven by mental health claims. And that's causing an enormous increase in the numbers. 800,000 more people who are not working right now on welfare because of ill health since the pandemic alone, just in the last few years. And the bill for all these benefits for PIP alone, which you've heard about, is forecast to grow by 50% in the next 4 years. Right, we spend something like £70 billion on welfare for working age people today. The bill for PIP alone is forecast to grow by 50% in just 4 years if we don't do something about it. So I've set out quite a comprehensive plan to reform our welfare system, get people the support they need, because you all know that work is good for you, right? Of course it puts money in your bank account, but it also gives you purpose, it gives you dignity, gives you hope. We should be supporting people into work and making sure that the welfare system is fair to all of you who are paying for it. So I've set out some comprehensive reforms to do that. Now again, people are going to say, I'm cruel, I'm heartless, I don't care about people. That's all nonsense. I want to get people the help they need. But I also want a welfare system that's fair to all of you who are paying for it and that's supporting people into work because that's good for them. And again, that's a clear choice at the next election. Right, next we had, yes, ma'am.
Yeah, with regards to the, good morning, Prime Minister.
Morning.
Morning. With regards to the PIP, when exactly is it going to start the reform?
All the reforms, yeah. So we've already started. So one thing we've already started doing are the fit notes. You all heard about these fit notes, right? So we did about 11 million of these fit notes last year. And they used to be called sick notes, and then they were changed, because the idea was when people say, oh, I can't work, actually, doctors would be able to say, well, maybe you can do some work, actually. It's not all or nothing. But what we discovered is that hasn't worked, because 94% of those 10 million fit notes basically sign people off as completely unfit to do anything. So that's clearly not working. So we're already trialing some new ways to do it, and maybe saying, you know what? Maybe GPs shouldn't be the best people to do that. They're busy, and it's difficult for them with their patient relationship. Hopefully you'll have a close relationship with your GP, and it sometimes puts them in a difficult position. So we're trying to figure out, is there a different way to do that? So we've already started trialing that. And we've also started saying to people that we're going to expect more of them, right? When I was Chancellor, if you were on welfare, all you had to do was work something like 9 hours a week in order to get all your benefits. That's all you had to do. And I didn't think that was right. You're all working very hard. And this is people who are capable of working, so we've changed that. And now we've said that you've got to be working at least half of a full-time job in order to keep receiving your benefits. And actually, if after 12 months, with all the support we've given you, when you're capable of working, you're still not accepting the job or the hours that are on offer that your work coach has provided for you or found for you, then you won't be able to keep receiving those benefits, because that's not fair, right? You've been given all the support, you've had a year, you're able to work, and at some point, if you're not taking the job, that's not right, that's not fair. So we're going to stop it after a year. So that will come in if I'm re-elected, because we have to pass legislation for that, and we've published a reform on PIP to explain the things that we will look at. And it's about how do we treat mental health? How does PIP treat mental health claims in particular? And the system, as you know, and you probably see online, look, the system looks like it can be gamed. Right? There are too many parts of it where people can just provide information. It's hard for the assessor to, you're nodding, you've seen the videos, right? Yeah. So, and I think it's just putting a bit more objectivity, providing evidence of a medical condition, as opposed to just saying, well, I can't do this and I can't do that, and suddenly, well, here's a check for thousands of pounds, right? So that's a reform that we've set out. So good. Right, have we got one more left? Right, who's got the last question? Right, yes, miss, there we go.
Teacher from Erewash. I just want to know how you're going to increase the budget in schools and support staff.
Yeah. Well, thank you for what you do. That is amazing. What age do you teach?
Year 2.
Year 2.
6 and 7.
Oh, brilliant. Okay. So look, I love talking about education because I think it's probably the most important thing I can do outside of the economy. Because I think that the best way to transform people's lives is to provide them with an amazing education. That's what I believe, right? Because everyone comes from lots of different backgrounds, but the way for me to make sure that everyone has got a chance to have an amazing life is to provide them with the best education. And that's only possible because we've got incredible teachers like you doing what you do. So thank you for that. I really appreciate it, and I know it wasn't easy during COVID to juggle everything, as it was not for parents either, but there we go. So we've already made sure that the school budget is gone up a lot over this Parliament. So right now, per pupil, more going into our schools than we've ever had in history, which is a good thing. But I think you'll know this as well. We've got to make sure we focus on standards, and phonics is something that you'll be familiar with. Now, this was something that we rolled out, my predecessors rolled out, to help our kids to read better, to teach them phonics. Now again, Labour Party opposed all of that at the time, said it was a gimmick and all the rest of it. But you know what now? Thanks to the hard work of you and all your colleagues, our English school children are the best readers in the Western world. Just think about that. That has happened over the last year. Lots of things that, last 14 years of Conservative government, but the thing I'm probably proudest of is that. You did that with all your colleagues, right? Our reforms, you guys did it. Our school kids, your kids and grandkids, best readers in the Western world. Isn't that something to be proud of? Right? And that is going to transform those kids' lives. So it's not just about the money, and of course the money will always go. It's about making sure that we focus on the things that matter. And that is a really good example of us taking bold action, sticking to a plan even when lots of unions in the Labour Party said it was not the right thing to do. And now we can see the results in thousands of millions of kids' lives transformed. And that's the future that I want to build for our country. So, all right. Good. Right. Okay, look, thank you so much for having me. It's been a real pleasure, and hopefully, look, I'm here on day one of the campaign. So look, I'm here, first thing one of these I'm doing. It's been a real privilege to be with you. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for what you're doing, and hopefully I can get your support in a few weeks' time. All right, bye, 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 bye.